Summer is here, so let's talk about the next PS5 update. Thankfully, since the PS5 came out, Sony has kind of stuck to pretty much the same schedule with when they release their updates. There have been a few one-offs like the variable refresh rate update, and I guess you can count PS Plus Premium and Extra, but for the most part, they do an update in spring and then they do one in summer. There have been some great updates over the past year and a half or so, but there's still some features that a lot of people want to see, so I figured I'd jump into those and let you know what you might be able to expect when this update inevitably drops. The first thing I gotta talk about is 1440p support. I know you've heard this from pretty much every PlayStation YouTuber out there, pretty much everyone on Twitter who talks about the PS5. People want 1440p support. And honestly, I think it's got to be coming sooner rather than later. It's just so bizarre to see Sony announce new headsets and new monitors that are basically built for the PlayStation, and they're leaving out 1440p for some reason, right? Like, we knew they've been sitting on these monitors for a long time because we heard about them last year when we were talking about variable refresh rate becoming a thing. Basically, the leakers said that Sony was waiting for these new monitors to be ready before they pushed that update. And now we're looking at this layout, and you've got the M3 and the M9 on the monitor side, but then on the headphone side, you've got the H3, H7, and H9. Where is the M7? Well, I'm thinking it'll come after we get 1440p support, because if I'm Sony, I'm sitting there releasing these new monitors. I'm like, I can't release a 1440p monitor when my console can't output 1440p. Because if you've ever plugged your PS5 into a 1440p monitor, instead of going 4K and downscaling it, it goes 1080p and does nothing, and it looks pretty bad. So I don't know how far along they are on this feature. I'm just trying to will it into existence here because we absolutely need 1440p support on the PS5. Something I didn't really think I wanted on the PS5 at launch, but now I kind of really want, is a web browser. So this generation, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are as close to being cheap gaming PCs running their own software as you can really get. And on the Xbox side of the fence, you have desktop Microsoft Edge. And where that has really come in handy for me is actually watching these like patron exclusive bonus episodes for some podcasts I subscribe to on Patreon. It's really cool being able to boot up my Series X, go to Patreon, and just watch these videos that I can't find natively on YouTube. The workaround I have for the PlayStation 5 right now is I watch the YouTube link with my account logged in on the Patreon app on my Xbox or on my phone, and then they show up in my history on the PS5, but that's just kind of inconvenient. So yeah, I'd really like to see a web browser implemented on the PS5. The only reason I think it's taking so long is that web browsers are a really easy way to hack these devices. Like, a lot of the hacks that you need to be downloaded. So if you had a web browser where you could just download stuff straight to your PS5, Sony's not gonna like that because, you know, their consoles get hacked. People figure out piracy super easily. I remember back in the day with the PSP, it was rampant, and I had my PS3 hacked at one point, able to play pirated games. So I can see why Sony hasn't included it yet, but when your competition has a full-fledged desktop browser and your console doesn't, it kind of looks bad. So I would hope they have something figured out sooner rather than later. I'm going to combine the next 2 points here, themes and folders. These are 2 features that the PS4 had that I absolutely loved, and I didn't know how much I would miss them until I was gaming on the PS5 and didn't have them. The PS5's UI, I think, is overall a pretty vast improvement over what we had on the PS4. It's quick, it's snappy, things are easy to get to, it's elegant looking. I think it's time where they could give us some themes or at least custom backgrounds, because the worst part about the PS5 is when you boot it up, the first thing you always see is a bunch of ads, and a lot of those ads are for games that you don't even play. It's still blasts me with Fortnite ads all the time. I have never had Fortnite on my PlayStation account. I've never even looked at it on the PlayStation Store, and I'm getting blasted constantly with ads for that game. I don't want to play Fortnite, so it's super frustrating that I can't just change the background of my PS5 to be something cool, like Boba Fett. And then as someone who's been a PlayStation gamer since the PSP days, I've had the PSP, PS3, PS Vita, PS4, and now the PS5, I have so many many games on my account between PS Plus, the amazing sales they used to do back in the day, all these handheld games, all these PS1 and PS2 classics. Like, it adds up really quick. And now that I can download a lot of those games to my PlayStation 5 and play them, having the ability to group them into folders on the new cross media bar that's not the cross media bar would be super useful. Like, now that I can have PSP games and PS1 games, I'd love to have like a little square on my bar that's just PSP games and another one that's just PS1 games. And I could have done that on the PS4 with the PS2 classics and all my other games, but I can't do that on the PS5. Now I'm gonna give them some slack here. They've been working on features that are actually important, like variable refresh rate and all the other stuff they've added, like SSD installing by yourself. But now that that's out of the way, there's no reason why we don't have folders, and there's no reason why we don't have themes. Let me have my Boba Fett background. That's all I want. And speaking of being able to play PS1 and PS2 games on the PS5, we got to take this one step further and get going with PS3 and PS Vita. Now, I know the issue with PS3 emulation is A, it's really hard to run those games because the way the PS3 worked was nuts with its cell processor, and B, a lot of these games have multiplayer, so you can't just release them as is if they had multiplayer if you don't want to open up those servers and support it. Like Resistance 2, for example, it had a great campaign and people want to go back and play it, like myself, but I understand why they can't just drop that on the PlayStation Store to be able to be run on the PS5, because the multiplayer just can't work in the modern day. And I don't know if they can just go in and strip that out, if that would screw with the emulation. Then you got to think about the trophies. Like, I can see why it's taking so long. It just needs to happen. I literally just recorded a video for my Steam Deck channel, Deck Ready, which you should definitely check out if you haven't yet, about how awesome it is that I can play Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, Portable Ops, 5, and Rising Revengeance on that one handheld device, and how it sucks that I can't do the same thing on the PlayStation 5. Nothing against Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I think it's a pretty good game, but the older Metal Gears are where it's at for me, especially Peace Walker. I'd love to be able to play those on the PS5. Peace Walker has got to be right around the corner because the PSP emulation is there, and that's honestly probably the best PSP game of them all, so I don't think we'll be waiting too long to be able to play it. But if we had that native PS3 emulation, I could play the HD version that I used to play on my TV all the time, because the Monster Hunter mission in Peace Walker is incredible. You can fight a monster from Monster Hunter with guns. I think I don't need to say anything more. Which is kind of crazy, right? Because Konami made Metal Gear and Capcom made Monster Hunter. Like, did they get permission for that? Or did Kojima just like deconstruct a Monster Hunter PSP game to get that file and then put that monster in? I don't know. Either way, I think they got to get on that PS3 emulation as quick as possible, and when they figured that out, they should not stop there. Let's get Vita games on the PlayStation 5. There's some great stuff on that handheld that's still not on the PS5, like Uncharted Golden Abyss, which is super underrated, MotorStorm RC, Freedom Wars, Soul Sacrifice, Killzone Mercenary. I would love to see all of these games on the PlayStation 5 because they would run at 60 frames per second. I actually went back and tried out Killzone Mercenary because I remember it being really good back when it came out, and that game is not holding anywhere close to a constant 30 FPS. So if we could increase the resolution, get it on the PS5 with a more smooth frame rate, I think that would be awesome. And really, we know that Sony can make an emulator for Vita, or at least small Vita hardware, because they've done it before. They made the PlayStation TV, which is a PlayStation Vita that's like this big and plugs into your TV, and used a DualShock 3 to work. So there are some solutions Sony can figure out here. I want to get that Vita emulation on there because I really miss that console. So now that we have monitors, we have headsets, we have big games being ported over to PC like The Last of Us Part 1, I think Sony needs to really just seal the deal here and give us some way to have cross save with these PC releases. Now, I'm not asking for the Microsoft way, which is you buy the game once, and if you have the Xbox app, you can just download the game straight to that. I would literally buy these games twice. Like, I would buy The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, I would buy it again on PC so I could transfer my save back and forth like I do with with Steam and my Steam Deck. It's such a cool experience having your saves transfer back and forth between a desktop device and a handheld device. And the only thing I feel like is stopping Sony from doing this is not having their own launcher and not having a way to log into these games that goes outside of Steam. So what they should do is just partner up with Valve and give people a way to link your Steam account to your PlayStation account. They've already done this in the past with Portal 2. If you bought Portal 2 digitally or physically and linked your PSN account with your Steam account, you got a free copy of Portal 2 on PC. So there's obviously a relationship there. I just want Sony to reignite the flame and take advantage of it once again. But if we can't get that, I can't believe I'm saying this, I would accept a PlayStation launcher that lets me log into my PSN account, see the games that I already have on PlayStation, and transfer my saves back and forth. You know, I hate to say it, but I would take it because I feel like that's probably what we're inevitably going to get. And launching that alongside new PS5 firmware would be a great time to do it, especially after we got these headsets, monitors, and all these new ports coming up. We already talked about stealing the browser from the Series X, so I don't think they should stop there. They also need to figure out some way to have real smart delivery and quick resume. Now, quick resume as a feature is really cool. Basically, what it lets you do is quit a game and then it stores that game, I guess, in RAM. And then when you start the game back up again after playing a different game, it'll be literally right where you left off. Since Microsoft doesn't support it really, and it doesn't work all that well. It worked pretty good at launch, but it's just gotten worse as time has gone on. And it actually makes games like Destiny 2 that are always online super annoying. But if Sony put in the work and figured out a way to do this, I think that would be awesome. Now, jumping back to the hardware real quick, we have the PS5, we have the monitors, we have the headsets. Let's get that DualSense Pro. I really thought we were going to see this thing announced alongside these monitors and headsets, but Sony is keeping it a little bit under wraps, and it kind of feels like a little bit of punishment on their part for letting this thing leak as hard as they did. But I just feel like they need to release this controller. The DualSense on PC, you need to use Bluetooth or wired, and a lot of games don't support it over Bluetooth, so you end up just wiring it. I want a DualSense Pro so bad that I would end up wiring it to my PC instead of using an Xbox controller. I feel like they could mop the floor with the Elite Series 2 controller because Microsoft's quality control on that thing is terrible. It's been terrible since the first version of it. It's still terrible with the second version of it, and the warranty support really sucks. They literally had to extend it by another year, and it's still not great. You have to order parts if you lose any of them, and they cost like $60. And last time I had to do that for my Elite Series 2. So if Sony can make a more durable controller that doesn't use magnetic sticks that fall off of the thing and get weaker as time goes on, I think people will shell out at least $250 for that thing, and they won't have to discount it to $170 almost immediately like Microsoft did with the Elite Series 2. The last thing I really want on the hardware side this summer from Sony is either a special edition PlayStation 5 or some special edition plates. We've seen the plates, they look great. The Cosmic Red one is one I want to pick up because I've seen pictures of it and it looks really cool. I went with the Midnight Black. I've got the matching controller. It looks awesome. But for The Last of Us Part 1, I want them to re-release that PS4 Pro design as PS5 plates. So with Ellie's tattoo etched into the PS5 plates. I know that's a Last of Us 2 thing, so they could save it for the multiplayer game, but having these custom plates, I feel like is such a missed opportunity for Sony because they could charge like $70 for them, and I'm sure the markup there would be like $69 and about 95 cents. If you count up how much this plastic costs they're using to make these plates. Special edition consoles are kind of a pie in the sky wish, and honestly something I think we could wait till the end of the year on, specifically with God of War Ragnarok. I saw how people reacted to the Xbox Series X, the Halo edition. They were basically like, why are you making a special edition console when people can't even find the regular edition one? And with the PS5 being so much harder to get than the Xbox Series X, I feel like they would react the same way, and honestly, rightfully so. So I feel like splitting the difference here and doing special edition plates or one-upping it and doing one better and giving us some sort of design lab for these face plates where we can add our own images, add our own etchings to them. That would be a really cool way to make people's PS5s feel like special edition ones without breaking the bank or upsetting the people who still can't get one. And just sticking with that design lab idea, let's take it one step further here and say Sony needs to compete with the design lab. We see how awesome these different colorway controllers are. People really seem to like them. Let us design our own controller. You could do some really cool stuff with the DualSense because it's sectioned off, like the touchpad, the side grips, the middle bottom piece that pops off for some reason, and the back. Those are all different parts of the controller that you could paint, and you could really make your own special edition controller. And it would be one step cooler if they could allow etching, because I just keep going back back to that etched Ellie tattoo. There's so many cool designs you could put in there, like Kratos' axe, for example.